This is what happens when you tolerate the collusion between the extreme left, the Marxists, the communists on the extreme left, radical Islam, and now increasingly aided and abetted by voices on the far right. Welcome to the world where good is evil and evil is good and everything is upside down. Hi, this is Bishop Robert Stearns coming to you from Jerusalem tonight with this week's Israel Frontline update. This is a place where we gather together, usually about once a week, to analyze and look at current events surrounding Israel and the greater Middle East and their impact on our world. I am not a politician. I do not work for any government. I came here 32 years ago as a tourist. I've been back 100 times or more as a tourist. I'm here as someone who loves this land, loves all the peoples of this region, and is working and believing for peace, for shalom in this region. And so interpreting in light of the Bible and in light of current events and our common struggle for peace, interpreting the events here. Well, this week's top story does not come from Jerusalem. It comes from New York City. And this story hits me personally because it involves a dear friend of mine. Rabbi Arthur Schneier, 93 years old, a spiritual father of the Jewish community in New York City, was at Synagogue. They were hosting an event, and the entrances to the synagogue began to be surrounded by anti-Israel protesters. They started shouting, "Death to the IDF, resistance is glorious, Intifada, revolution, resistance, you make us proud, take another settler out." Take another settler out. For what? For dinner? For coffee? No. Kill them. This is a call for genocide on the streets of America, in the steps of a house of worship, which is led by a Holocaust survivor. Are you there yet? Are you paying attention yet, America? This is New York City openly calling for the death of Jews on the streets of Manhattan at a house of worship led by a 93-year-old Holocaust survivor. This is how low we have fallen. The protest was organized allegedly by Pal Auda New York, a pro-Palestinian organization. And the kinds of things that were being shouted out, I can't even say on camera. I am blessed to know 4 generations of the Schneier family. If you know the Schneier family, you know that they are among the most peaceful, bridge-building religious leaders in America and in the world. They actively reach out to the Muslim world. They actively reach out to the African American community. They have built bridges all across the human family. And here we have them being threatened on the doorstep of their own house of worship. Well, this was brought to the attention of Mayor-elect Mamdani, and his press secretary allegedly stated this: Mayor-elect Mamdani believes every New Yorker should be free to enter a house of worship without intimidation. That sounds good. And that these sacred spaces should not be used to promote activities in violation of international law. So first of all, what violation of international law was Rabbi Schneier's congregation in support of? But what I would like to ask Mayor-elect Mamdani is this: are we going to be actively looking into the mosques across New York City to see if they are promoting activities in violation of international law? Because from what I see online coming from many, certainly not all, but from many mosques and imams across America, calling for things that are not only anti-Israel and anti-Jewish, but anti-American. So since the mayor-elect is weighing in on his opinion of monitoring these sacred spaces to not be used to promote activities in violation of international law, I certainly hope that will extend to the mosques of New York City. The anti-Israel organization Punishment for Justice movement publicly offered thousands of dollars in calling for the assassination of various Israelis. Bounties for the murder of Israeli scholars have been listed on this anti-Israel group's website, including profiles and personal details of the targets. This website lists the home addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, social media accounts for professors at Ben Gurion University, the Technion, Hebrew University, Tel Aviv University, Harvard University, Oxford University. Some of the targets listed live outside of Israel, including the US and the UK. The list includes targets who supposedly perform research that supports the IDF. And there is $5,000 being offered for information about the target. $20,000 is being offered for the arson of their vehicles or their homes. $50,000 is being offered for their murder. However, the bounty for murder of $50,000 is doubled for special targets. This is indeed, ladies and gentlemen, the world we are living in. Welcome to the world where good is evil and evil is good and everything is upside down. This is what happens when you tolerate the collusion between the extreme left, the Marxists, the communists on the extreme left, radical Islam, and now increasingly aided and abetted by voices on the far right who are certainly not helping the situation and very often standing in the place of direct anti-Semitism. We are living in La La Land. And my appeal is to the center. America and the West and the world have to find their center again. There was a time where you could be Democrat, you could be Republican, you could be left, you could be right, but there were centrist ideals that were the core of the American value system. We are watching the erosion of those values and the rights that come from those values, the peace, the societal peace that come from maintaining those centrist core values. They're eroding in front of our very eyes. I want to tell you there's so much happening here. I'll just mention briefly, keep your eyes on Lebanon because Israel is actively involved in taking out Hezbollah leadership in Lebanon. I have so many Lebanese friends, Christian, Muslim, Druze, who bemoan, who are just heartsick over the demise of Lebanon. 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when I began coming here, Lebanon, it was known as the Paris of the Middle East. It was a beautiful, peaceful, tranquil country. And we are watching Hezbollah come in, aided by Iran, just north of us here. And so keep your eyes on that. Finally, a story I want to point out, November 24th, rising Israeli settler violence sparks outcry and calls for accountability. Recent weeks have seen a surge in Israeli settler violence against Palestinians. Now, this is something that the mainline media is not going to let you know that Israel is reporting on, because all of these reports are coming from Israeli media, talking about how the IDF has recorded incidents of nationalist crime and settler violence. These are the more radicalized group of settlers who unfortunately, horrifically, attack Palestinians. So what's the difference here? What do we see? Well, we see that these incidents are immediately reported. They are immediately followed up on by the IDF, by the legal mechanisms here. More than 400 residents of Gush Etzion signed a petition condemning the violent attacks by Israeli settlers against Palestinians. This is the difference. Oh, those extremist Israelis. Yes, there are extremist Jewish Israelis. There are extremist everything. Hello? There are extremist Christians, extremist Jews, extremist Buddhists, extremist Hindus, extremist Muslims, extremist atheists. Fill in the blank of any worldview, and you will find that there are portions of it that go to extremism. What is the difference? The difference is that in Israel, this is being openly reported on by a free press, condemned by the vast majority of the nation, investigated and legal action taken by the IDF and by the Israeli police force. This is the difference. If you think that being a Christian Zionist means that everything Israel does is perfect, or every bit of Jewish theology is in agreement with Christian theology, you're off your rocker. There are no perfect Israelis. There are no perfect nations. There are no perfect people groups. Every group has its tendency towards extremism. The question is, what is the moral center of that population? When there is extremism, does the moral center of that population rise up, confront it, and marginalize it? No one in America, no one would say that the KKK is an accepted part of American life. Does the KKK exist in America? I'm sure it does. But no one would say that it is elevated, that it is celebrated, that it is tolerated in polite American society. It is a horrific, racist, evil organization, and Americans call it out, and where they cross the border of legality, we prosecute them. This is the litmus test. So stop being led astray by a headline, radical so-and-so does such and such. That's not the question. The question is, how does the greater society respond to it? Sadly, tragically, and I mean that with all of my heart, tragically, in the vast majority of the Palestinian communities, hatred is taught. Jihad is taught. Death to Israel is taught. That is never taught or tolerated in the vast majority of Israeli society. And so, join me week by week as we continue to pray and to work for the peace of Jerusalem. I want you to like, subscribe, pass this on to someone, and join us almost every week as we continue to bring you to the front line of Israel, and we continue to work and pray for the peace of Jerusalem.